On the 17th of May, 1933, a couple driving along the shores of Loch Ness spotted something incredible. They described a large beast with a series of humps moving through the water. They weren't alone in their sighting. Over the next few days, more and more people came forward with stories of their own encounters. The local Inverness Courier newspaper reported that there had been at least 50 sightings of the monster in the previous week alone. The legend of the Loch Ness Monster was born after this. People from all over Britain headed to the Scottish Highlands to try and catch a glimpse of the mystery beast for themselves. And while no one ever managed to capture clear evidence of its existence, the idea of a prehistoric monster living in the depths of the loch has captured our imaginations ever since. But is there really a monster lurking in the depths of Loch Ness? Let's take a look at the history of Scotland's most famous monster and decide together if there might be some truth behind the legend. For centuries before the first recorded sighting of the Loch Ness Monster in 1933, the waters of Loch Ness were said to be home to all kinds of strange creatures. One of the earliest written references to a monster in the loch comes from the 6th century. Irish monk Saint Columba, who is said to have banished a water beast from the lake so that it would not harm the people of the nearby town of Drum. But even before this, there were tales told of a sea monster that lived in the depths of the lake. These stories may have even inspired the legendary Scottish poem The Legend of Behemoth, which dates back to the 12th century. In the poem, a large creature is said to have been washed ashore in the Scottish town of Inverness, which lies at the southern end of Loch Ness. Locals were so terrified by what they saw that they took the matter to King Alexander II, who sent an elite team of warriors to slay the beast. But when the king arrived at the shore, he found that the creature had already disappeared. The poem ends with a warning that unless the creature is destroyed, it will return to terrorize the townspeople once again. Throughout the Middle Ages, stories of strange beasts and monsters being sighted in Loch Ness continued. In 1717, a physician named Philip Meadows wrote of seeing a creature in the lake that was around 20 feet long, with the body of a whale and the head of a camel. Other descriptions tell of a creature that looks like a gigantic serpent or a crocodile. It wasn't until the 19th century, though, that the modern image of the Loch Ness Monster began to take shape. In 1871, a writer named A.R. Macaulay wrote a story about a monster in Loch Ness for the local Inverness Courier newspaper. He described it as a large animal resembling a whale, but with a long neck. The story was illustrated with a drawing of a horse-like creature with flippers instead of legs and a long neck that looked a bit like a giraffe, as. This illustration would later inspire one of the most famous depictions of the monster, a painting called The Monster of Loch Oish by the artist John William Inge. However, despite these early written accounts, there is little evidence to suggest that anyone actually saw the Loch Ness Monster before the 20th century. The first photograph that is often credited as being the very first picture of the monster was actually taken in 1934, just 1 year after the famous spate of alleged sightings. The photo shows what appears to be a long-necked creature rising out of the water. However, it turned out that the supposed monster was actually a boat that was floating past the camera at just the wrong angle. There are plenty of other fake photos like this one, including a popular picture taken in 1931 that shows a model of a plesiosaur that was put into the loch for a film short. However, we shouldn't dismiss every single photo as a fake because there are a few images that remain officially unidentified to this day. Perhaps the most convincing photo comes from 1960 and shows what looks like a dark shape moving through the water. Could it be a long-necked creature or is it something else entirely? We'll let you decide. So, what about those famous sightings of the 1930s? Well, the alleged sighting by the couple in the car is particularly intriguing. They claim to have seen a 20 to 30 foot long animal with 7 humps, but when police searched the area where they had seen the creature, they could find no trace of it. Other witnesses who came forward over the following weeks also struggled to provide any concrete details about what they had seen. Some described the monster as looking like a seal or a whale, while others said it looked like a dinosaur. It seems that each person saw something different and created their own image of the monster based on their own imagination. This lack of concrete evidence led some people to believe that the sightings were nothing more than a hoax. The people involved wanted to attract tourists to the area and make money off of the sudden interest in the Loch Ness monster. Others, however, argued that the sightings were genuine, but that the media had blown them out of proportion. Regardless of whether or not the sightings were genuine, the legend of the Loch Ness monster quickly took hold in the public imagination. Tourists flocked to the area hoping to get a glimpse of the beast, and hotels and restaurants were packed. Businesses boomed, and everyone was happy. That is until the government stepped in and tried to capitalize on the craze. In 1934, the British government declared Loch Ness a protected area and set up a tourist board to oversee all activities in the area. This move was unpopular with locals who felt that the government was trying to take advantage of them. Many people saw the government's involvement as a sign that the whole thing was a scam anyway, and they began to lose faith in the story. By the 1940s, interest in the Loch Ness monster had begun to wane. However, in recent years, thanks to the internet and social media, interest in the Loch Ness monster has skyrocketed once again. People are sharing their own alleged experiences with the monster online, and videos of mysterious creatures in the loch have racked up millions of views. Now, you may be wondering why people continue to be fascinated by the Loch Ness monster. After all, we have never been able to prove that it exists. Well, perhaps it's because the Loch Ness monster represents a kind of magic in our world. In a world where everything seems to be explained by science and technology, the idea that there is still something out there that we don't understand is appealing. The Loch Ness monster is a reminder that there is still wonder left in the world, and that we don't know everything. Perhaps we are all just a bit tired of being told how the world works and would rather live in a world where anything is possible. But what do you think? Do you believe that there is a monster living in the depths of Loch Ness? Or do you think that the sightings can be explained by more mundane means? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave us a like and subscribe so you won't miss any of our future videos. Thanks for watching.